Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Sunday edition here on KTN News, and this is Political Pages as we take a look at very quickly some of the big stories in local newspapers. That is, of course, political headlines this past week. And before we do that, let's take a look. Of course, my guests are here with me. Dismas Mokua, political analyst, is here. Bonke Komwai, Jubilee activist. I have another Jubilee person, the Jubilee strategist, Brian Bogo, is here. We have a lot of Jubilee presence on the show this morning. We'll be having a lot of questions for them. We have Jared Okelo, Code strategist, and also joining us from our Eldoret studio. For the first time, we have Benson Chesereka, political commentator. Of course, we have to be somewhere in the regions just to try and bring you as much diverse opinion on the show as possible. So, gentlemen, before we take a look at 2-3 stories in local newspaper dailies, I did see a story in the Standard this morning about how Onyango, former TNA Secretary General, of which we'll talk about more about him and his defection to ODM, and former TNA Chairman Johnson Sakaja saying how they pulled all the stops to make sure that Jubilee won, some saying even it was theft of votes. Dismas, obviously Onyango Law has defected, would say anything to appease the other side, but what is your take on this?
Well, for me, I think what Mr. Onyango Law has done is really bad. It's bad political manners. Because when you've been entrusted a responsibility with the head of state to run his political affairs, you've got access to so many secrets. So it's unacceptable for you to decide one day to bolt and then start making a lot of unnecessary utterances. Like, for instance, 2 pertinent questions. When did Onyango Law discover that corruption is domiciled in Jubilee? And when did he discover that tribalism is domiciled in Jubilee? Was it a eureka moment which just came once and then discovered, wow, Jubilee has been invaded by corruption, let me take a walk? I really think that's bad manners. And then you have got so many cases. You have Mr. John Gidongo, you have Mr. Miguna. People have been given the opportunity to serve in very serious and sensitive offices. And, they live in a manner which is unceremonial. And my view would be, if you're unhappy with any political leader, if you're taking a walk, just disappear into some oblivion, you reorganize your life, and you come back later. But again, you have to give Mr. Raila Odinga credit for using Onyango Law the last couple of days. Because from the article today and his other media interviews, he's said what people in court have been saying all the time, that their votes were stolen. And when they went to the Supreme Court said no, the elections was free and fair. Right. So there would be no better person than Onyango Law, who was in the kitchen cabinet, to actually come and validate that. So for the court supporters, they're very excited. But again, I think, Ben, in the next couple of days, Onyango Law would find it very hard to access Raila Odinga, because I doubt whether Raila Odinga would like now to trust Onyango Law with any sensitive information.
All right. Bonke, what is your take on this?
Well, Onyango Law is an embarrassment to the current generation. Remember when Onyango was joining TNA, he tarnished the Raila's name. He called Raila all sorts of names. Then he worked for TNA as the Secretary General. And even by the time Onyango was working for TNA, we were expecting to do a lot in Nyanza, by mobilizing the great Nyanza region, that is from Kisii, Luoland, and the Luya community, to mobilize, the youths and those who would wish to join TNA by then. Onyango did not do anything as far as any field marshal in the world of politics would do. Onyango is just using Raila now. Right now, he's now tarnishing the name of president, that the president betrayed him. These are some of the characters, like I would agree with my brother here. He's like Miguna. You'll employ him today, then the following day he will turn his gun on you. So what Onyango is doing is just political scheming. He's a professional political broker. But as far as issues are concerned, like development, and also someone who can be loyal under certain institution, Onyango is not the right person to be trusted with an elective post. And I'm wondering what Onyango, the impact is going to create in ODM at the moment, and also to the people of Central Kisumu constituency.
All right.
So he's using Raila's impact in Nyanza to gain that political mileage again. Onyango is the most incompetent. He's an embarrassment, and I'm telling you, he has failed.
What do you think about the comments that he has made?
It's just, those are disparate comments. Onyango is trying to attract common Mwananchi down there, that he has some documents that will be useful to the coalition that is called. And I want to assure them, and this should go on record, Onyango has no files. He was quite far from the strategic plan for Jubilee.
All right.
Onyango has no information. Those are political, those are propaganda. He's trying to attract the attention of ODM supporters and also Raila as well. So Raila, advisors of Raila should be so careful with Onyango Law, because Raila will support him today. Actually, this is, let me tell you, Onyango is using Raila to be a member of parliament today. 2 years down the line after this election, Onyango will register his political party and he will call a press conference that he's running another different political party in
We'll come back to this file footage and find out. Jared, what is your take on the comments, first of all, that he has made concerning the 2013 elections? And also, does he bring anything to the ODM and court table?
Well, thank you, Ben. The mere fact that Onyango Law has taken the political discourse the last 1 week is a testament that he's not just any other guy. Both from Jubilee and CORD. I mean, people are jittery. People are making certain times very sensational claims about his move to ODM. And if indeed he was just any passers-by, he wouldn't have attracted the attention that he's enjoying. But first things first. People join political outfits for self-aggrandizement, self-interest, and self-gain. Onyango Law played a pivotal role in the year 2013. 6 months down the line, TNA had not been started, had not kicked off as a political party. But Onyango, together with Johnson Sakaja, cobbled it up, gave it a very huge launch at KICC, akin to what we saw with President Obama in the US. And within no minute, they managed to have a political outfit that saw Uhuru Kenyatta go to State House. And as I said, people join political outfits for various reasons. Onyango Law, even though he played such an important role to propel Uhuru Kenyatta to presidency, of course together with many others, but his role was so well pronounced that everybody knew Onyango's role. It took 3 years for Onyango Law to be given a 1-year job with Kenya Lake Basin. His counterparts, such as Sakaja, was nominated to go to parliament. Some of them were made cabinet secretaries in various ministries in Uhuru Kenyatta's government. Onyango Law stayed out for that long. And then even when he got a job that ought to have lasted 3 years, he was only given 1 year. And that was not even an executive chairmanship. He was just made a chairman of Lake Basin. 1 year later, he was shown the doors and left to fend for himself. And what then followed is an amorphous group was crafted in the name of a secretariat that was to see the events leading to the next elections given to my friend Raphael Tuju. But then Onyango Law was totally sidelined in this particular arrangement. So you really did not expect him to stay there in a position where he doesn't have any future. But as I said, you know, the kind of attraction that he has benefited the last 1 week is really a testament that Jubilee has lost big time, and perhaps ODM, CORD, and NASA has gained big time. He has made, as you say, certain claims in today's newspaper touching on the last elections, most of which are things that we have always known.
Had before.
We know that 2 million votes were cast in favor of the president and were not seen in all the remaining tiers of elective positions. We have always known that we had an 800-page document that we presented to the Supreme Court as CORD that the Supreme Court trashed.
So no new
they never gave it any attention.
All right.
So
all right.
all these together with perhaps others that he would be telling us as we go along are testaments that Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency is not legitimate.
Do you agree, Brian?
You know,
And did Jubilee sideline? Was it fair to Onyango Law?
let me first say that Onyango Law made a move like any politician, of which he's not the first one. We saw Honorable Moura leaving ODM to go to Ruiru because he was he came to Jubilee because he's seeking votes in Ruiru. It's a non-starter to stand in Ruiru with ODM. same as to stand in Kisumu Central with Jubilee. Now, Olo has to say what he has to say so that he can endear himself to the people of Kisumu Central. And what else can he say other than making them feel that Jubilee stole the election? What I'd love to say is that he has joined other notable like Onyango, Onyango. All of them, they were against Baba at one point, but they realized for them to have a seat in Nyanza, they have to come back home, right, which is exactly what Olo has done. So to me, it's non-consequential Olo's move, because we are dealing with numbers. And I'll ask, how much votes has Jubilee lost by Olo joining ODM? 0.
Ben, just allow me to say a point. For somebody to actually imagine that serving as a TNS Secretary General Onyango Lo and its chairman Sakaja delivered the route of presidency, that would be stretching somebody's imagination too much. That actually would be naive. Where Onyango Lo comes from, those are the people who are called Joluedo, ama watu wa mkono. They received a set of instructions on what to do. Right. The people who delivered the presidency are well known, and it's not Onyango Lo, nor is it Johnson Sakaja.
But in terms of maybe knowing, being a bit close to power, does he know secrets? Is Jubilee worried?
If you can be edged out in an arrangement of the coalition, it means you are not in the kitchen when the ugali was being cooked.
All right.
So I think he lost favor a long time ago. That's why he's been in the cold.
All right. Let's bring in Benson Cheserek, political commentator from Eldoret in the county of Uasin Gishu. Benson, if you've been following our discussion on Onyango Law and his defection, what is your take on this?
Thanks. First of all, thanks, Ben Kitili, for giving me this opportunity to come on your platform today to discuss on the domestic issues that affect the political parties here and the current movements. There is no question it is not a surprise what we're just noticing. And actually, this could be the beginning, or this could be the beginning of so many changes that are going to happen. But it is not a surprise. I am in agreement with what most of your panelists have just said. This is why sometimes when we run political parties without ideology, we really don't know what the Secretary General believed before he left TNA or he left the new party now to ODM or to the new outfit that it is supposed to be formed. But I think partly because there are several things that he has seen. Maybe his political interest, maybe his future in politics, or maybe his region that he's going to represent if he has some political aspirations. So there are so many unexplained things that maybe Onyango Olo himself understands better than us. We can analyze just his text and his movements, but I believe there could be more internal things that are still going to come.
All right.
But this is some of the things that I bring the contrast is, if we don't have an ideology, what do you believe in a party? What are the issues? What are the critical issues that affect people? And then I think that is one of the reasons why he could have actually moved to that direction.
All right. Thanks, Benson. Let me come to Jared. So that let's start. So he's eyeing Kisumu Central seat, and Ken Obura has been at loggerheads with Raila Odinga for some time. Does it get this, according to you?
Well, there are more than just the two who are positioning themselves to seize that position. At the moment, I think there are about 6 who have so far expressed interest in Kisumu Central constituency's position as Member of Parliament. Of course, you cannot, underrate an opponent in a political contest. And, I think Onyango Lo's big bounds into the political arena as regards ODM politics has attracted a lot of attention. And he has therefore been seen as a front runner if the media coverage is anything to go by. You have said that, Ken Obura has not been in good books with Jacom, but it is also true that he has not come out publicly to denounce Jacom in any way.
Right.
Of course, certain very critical events. Yeah, certain very critical events have happened within Kisumu region, and he has missed for maybe a reason or another. But he hasn't come out to really talk ill about, what goes on in ODM or what happens with Jacom and people around Jacom.
But who has Jacom's blessings?
Well, I think this time Jacom will not have anybody to raise his
That would be
hands.
interesting to see.
Yeah, because
All right.
he has made it quite categorical that the mere reason why voter apathy has been prominent within Luo Nyanza is as a result of shambolic nominations.
All right.
And this is an area where he has come out so strongly to come and rectify.
All right.
And he's saying if the people will not pass you over to parliament, then he's sorry. He's not going to have a preferred candidate.
All right.
over
Yes, very, very quickly before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah, Ben, ask yourself why everybody is celebrating in Jubilee from Mombasa to Nyalgunga about Onyango Olo's exit from Jubilee. I'm telling you.
Oh, we haven't seen that.
No, it was on
The
media.
media picks which
The
side
yeah,
to-
it was on media.
Sure.
Onyango Olo is a very arrogant character who cannot listen to anyone. Onyango is so selfish. And even if you ask Onyango Olo right now, he's vying as a member of parliament of Kisumu Central. What he did for TNA when he was the Secretary General, Onyango did not have TNA at heart. Onyango was fighting for his personal gain. And no one can serve two masters at the same time. And when you ask
can you
me-
really water down his competencies as Secretary General for TNA?
Actually,
in
Onyango,
2013?
that's why when TNA was being disbanded, no one could even think of Onyango Olo because he was the most incompetent
Tuju
person.
versus Olo.
Tuju is a rational, the most competent.
All right.
Actually,
That
if
is-
you
that
look
is-
at
that
what
is the
Tuju
point.
did when he was a member of parliament in Rarieda,
Ben,
speaks for itself.
Ben,
It
it is
wrote,
akin
and
to
that's
when
why-
your wife leaves you.
Ben-
You will say all bad things about her, and she will equally say all
but
bad
you
things
see,
about you.
you know,
It
ODM,
takes
they're
Jubilee
taking
4
big
years
deal
to
to this
remember that Onyango is so incompetent that even his departure doesn't hold.
But I'm telling them,
4 years.
their chairman
they kept
left,
him as
Henry
Secretary
Kosgei.
General.
He came to Jubilee. They chased Magere Langat like a dog in front of
Well,
Raila.
these are cases of
So these are
self-help.
things
And-
it's
and
not
do you
something new that we've
All right.
seen these things.
Political defections.
And again-
And if those
Ben.
things excite them, in these 7 months, I think they'll pass out.
And again,
because we'll see so much of them.
the reason as to why Rafael Tuju left ODM, because of his development track record.
In fact, he has
Tuju
never
was
been
the
on ODM.
first member
Yeah,
of
he's never
parliament.
been a member of ODM. He was in NAC.
Okay, when there are differences with Raila, because the ODM is what people
All
use
right.
today. So
That's a topic
the
for
roads
another day.
Tuju built in Rarieda, the water projects Tuju, the mobile clinics Tuju took to Nyanza. He was the only Luo member of parliament. You
All
can
right.
go to Rarieda today.
Actually,
and access any
those
of
are
the
facts anyway. Let's move on to something else in the newspapers this week, and that is, of course, something that we cannot have a discussion about Kenyan politics without mentioning, and that is the politics of the National Super Alliance, the so-called National Super Alliance. I don't know if there is such a thing or if it's in the offing, but where does Raila Odinga stand? Raila Odinga still wants to be NASA presidential candidate, of course, in the August election. That was in the Star this week, I think. Let's touch on that a bit, Dismas. What's the latest on that from where you sit?
Well, right now there's a huge conversation, and these are two Jubilee architects will agree to that NASA has given them restless nights. And it's the case that wherever in any country, when the opposition decides to unite, the incumbent is going to bleed profusely. If you go to Nigeria, there's a case of General Buhari. You go to Ghana, and even the latest in Gambia. But you know, Jubilee would like to say that this thing is amorphous. And you recall what the deputy president said, that the opposition is clueless, rudderless, and all manner of adjectives. The only thing is to remind us that he's a sharp student, that he knows very good English. But the NASA thing is really taking shape from what you see from the body language of Mr. Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi. And I guess what they're waiting to do is at the right time to name their presidential candidate. Because if you look at the absolute figures and you look at the statistics, and Jubilee being a party made up of largely two communities, the Kikuyus and Kalenjins, the absolute figures come to about 37%. And if NASA is able to unite, then it will be very early to make a call. It's going to be a tough call.
All right, this headline says, many signs point to the ODM boss as opposition choice to face Uhuru Bonke. Is Raila your most feared opponent in August as Jubilee?
Well, we don't fear Raila. If he's going to be the candidate, the presidential candidate for NASA, actually, we shall just replicate what we did in 2013 because he's been our opponent before.
Based on Onyango's predictions.
Not
Which is stealing the election.
No, we can't trust Onyango right now. We cannot trust anything Onyango says because he doesn't have a backup. Recently, it was 2 days ago, I heard Raila saying, Tuko called Nanasa. So it means there is still negotiation going on. And I said this last week, that they are still weighing. And I mean, what is NASA? Who are these people who are forming NASA to make NASA to be NASA? It's like Onyango going back to ODM. What impact is Onyango going to give Raila? It's the same thing. Mudavadi is coming into NASA. It's Mudavadi and maybe Kanu, of which Gideon Noi has not yet decided on what to do. And there are those negotiations. And Gideon said the other day that there is an open discussion from the government, the Jubilee, the ruling party, and now the opposition.
Jared?
So what we know, Raila is the candidate. And we are very much ready to face him, and we are going to defeat him as Alistair in the
Jared,
morning.
is that a fact?
Well, you know, there is nothing new in that headline. It is true that Raila is angling himself to be the flag bearer of NASA. The same goes with his counterparts. Kalonzo Musyoka has expressed the same interest. Wetangula, you know, you have Musalia Mudavadi, of course, Gideon Moi, stroke Nick Salat. These people are willing and wishing every day that they be made Tosha to face Uhuru Kenyatta at the ballot. But, you know, let's face the reality. Is NASA an outfit that can defeat Uhuru Kenyatta in the next elections? I would say yes, and that is why they are very jittery each time anything happens within this nation. Remember yesterday, Uhuru Kenyatta's mother was at Kabarak to visit with the former President Moi. And this came at a time when Gideon Moi has indicated that in 2 weeks he will declare whether he's going NASA or he's staying with Jubilee. So all these things are happening just because of the fear that NASA is likely going to NASA them and send them home in good time.
All right.
I think these people live in a world of their own. First of all, President Uhuru Kenyatta is a creation of former President Moi. So we will have a snowball in hell when you think that Gideon will join NASA. Number two, numerically, for you to defeat Jubilee, you have to show us how Jubilee has lost the previous votes they got. Number three, this must say Jubilee is mostly two communities. I want to remind him that last election, the entire of Mandera County, from governor to MCAs, were all URP. I don't see Kikuyu there, I don't see Kalenjin there. The entire seats of Narok, other than Murua Dikir, it was TNA and URP, all of them. Kajiado, 4 out of 5 MPs, and only 2 MCAs were ODM in Kajiado Central. Not all of them are Kalenjin. Samburu, all the seats from governor, URP. Senator, URP. Women rep, TNA. And all MPs, URP. I've not seen
Then let me
Kalenjin
disabuse
there.
this notion.
Let me finish.
All right.
Now, you come to Isiolo. We have the governor and 2 MPs. So this notion that Jubilee is two tribes is a fallacy.
And you think these absolute numbers have not changed?
They have not changed
That is what I'm coming
whatsoever.
Right.
Because look at the politics in Kenya right now. Look at the politics right now. It's revolved into 3 regions: Western, Coast, Kisii.
All right.
Those three
comments.
regions.
So, before I come
Jubilee
to
got
Jared,
the least votes in Western province. If we lose all the votes that we got in Western, it's 52,000.
let me get Benson Chesarek's comment on this before I come to Jared. Hold that thought. Benson, what is your take on the NASA, the National Super Alliance coalition, and its chances against the Jubilee administration?
Ben, there is no question. There is a lot of general apathy towards the Jubilee administration is here on the ground. I was in several parts of Marakwet yesterday, and here in Uasin-Gishu. Even though the deputy president was actually here pushing for voter registration, I mean, you go to the retail politics and listen to people. Jubilee has a lot to do. NASA is a threat to Jubilee. There is no question about that. All they have to do is actually get serious, get organized, and get a presidential candidate that can sell. And from what you see, Raila actually is on the front line, being the fronted as the presidential candidate. But he's actually going to be in several parts of Marakwet this week, this coming week. encouraging people to register as voters. But if you look at the intricacies of what is happening on the ground right now, there is a lot of confidence lost in Jubilee in these parts. I'm saying, speaking from actually interacting with real people on the ground, saying that they are not interested really much in the party politics, but the leadership. So
are you
there is a lot of
that,
mixed reactions, but
are you
there is
saying
no
that
question.
Jubilee and URP maybe have lost, not URP, Jubilee, because that's what we have right now, have lost some ground in the Rift Valley? And is it, could you say that it's just in Marakwet where you are, or is it widespread?
No, I don't. I can't say it is widespread, but in several parts of Marakwet, where there's been a lot of insecurity issues, like Marakwet East, for instance, there is no question Jubilee will have a lot of work to do. When you come to this Uasin Gishu, there is a lot of mixed reactions. When you go to Marakwet West, there is a lot of mixed reactions. But they still have ground. The Jubilee still have ground. But if NASA comes with a big force, with a clear agenda that sells to the people, with good presidential candidate that will sell to the people, there will be a threat to Jubilee. It is completely different scenario from 2013 for sure.
Yes, Jared.
So that is where I'm coming.
Thanks, Benson. Yes.
Let me make just 2 quick points, this is a result of voter registration. And Jubilee had activated their system in Isiolo. And I saw people in Isiolo doing a demonstration saying, no water, no voter registration. And the message was directed to their governor as well as to President Kenyatta. And when the deputy president was in Narok the other day, again, the same people that Mr. Mbogwa talks about heckled the deputy president and said, you are not happy with your development record. So trying to compare what happened in the last election and this year would be a fool's errand, because there have been so many variables that have changed. And that's why I said earlier on that the scoreboard, looking at the August scoreboard, it's so tight that if you are trying to make a call now and saying you have not lost ground, you're shooting in the dark.
Let me interrupt this. Please hold the thought, gentlemen. This is a very, of course, important topic. Let's now take you live to the Sagana State Lodge in the county of Nyeri, where President Uhuru Kenyatta is issuing a statement. Remember, he has been on a tour of central Kenya, mobilizing Kenyans there to come out in large numbers and register as voters. Let's listen in. All right, we are still trying to rectify the sound there from the president's statement from the Sagana State Lodge. We shall be trying to bring you that as soon as we have it. Jared.
I would want to disabuse one notion, and the notion is premised on the fact that Jubilee is still planning to rig the next elections, and this is how they want to do it. They would want to, put into our minds that they still have absolute control of Rift Valley and absolute control of central Kenya. By so saying, they are planning to now parade to the public that they have 6 million votes in their basket already, even before the votes are cast.
But isn't that also what CORD is doing in their strongholds?
But ask yourself, are they still in Narok? Are they in Kajiado? Are they in in Trans Nzoia? Are they in Marakwet? Are they in Samburu, Turkana, Pokot? Are they in Nakuru? Are they in Bomet? Are they in Kericho, which is a battleground? These people have been hauled into Uasin Gishu and Nandi only. And when we are talking about mathematics, political mathematics, then apportion them those 2 counties in the Rift Valley and let all the rest be battlegrounds. When they are so quick to change electoral laws, touching on complementarity of electronic voter register to a manual voter system, then you can see where their thinking pattern is leading to.
But I have a question for you, Jared. Isn't that also what ODM would do in Kisumu, for instance?
To steal votes in Kisumu? Why?
Not to say that
they resurrected 1.2 million dead voters.
Oh, definitely, yes. We have absolute numbers everywhere. In fact, the places where they have lost, it is ODM that has gained. You saw what happened during Mzee Ole Ntimama's burial. When Raila showed up, everything turned thunderous. And when the president came, everybody was quiet. Right. So we are gaining grounds so systematically in these regions that were perceived to be Jubilee strongholds.
Yes, Bonke.
What Mr. Jared should know is that all our political leaders, from the president and the opposition leader, everyone went back to their political homeland. They were going back to their stronghold. Actually, the strategy which is in Nyanza right now, Raila gave instructions, the former prime minister. he gave instructions to all governors, members of parliament. He doesn't want anyone to follow him. When he comes to your county, you are the host. These people who've been masquerading behind him to take advantage of his image for the people to see that, oh, our MP is next to Jacom, that notion is no longer there. And he speaks pure vernacular to the Luo nation that you have to cast, you have to register as voters. Raila cannot go to Central at this particular moment before going to Nyanza, where he comes from, because that is where his stronghold is. So he started that. The president, it is constitutional. And actually, if you can even express and share with your community through vernacular, these radio stations, the better. Right. Because we want Kenyans to vote. So you cannot say...
talk about that.
Well, let me go back by Nairobi.
Jared first.
He was in Nairobi. He mobilized voters before he went to Nyanza.
But Nairobi is his stronghold. He was an MP in Nairobi.
Good. Nairobi is our stronghold.
Nairobi, you have less than peace. Let me say something. Let me say something.
We'll talk about Nairobi.
Let me say something.
Yes.
You know, Jared has amazed me. They think votes is in how Raila is received somewhere. Let me tell you, if Raila comes to Kiambu, he'll be received the same way he was received in Naro. Because people like listening to Vitendawili sometimes to enjoy themselves, but does not translate to votes. That's what confused court people. They have huge rallies, they think those are votes. Zero. We saw with Kezi Kilonzo, he was not even a registered voter, and he was fighting for court at the Supreme Court. Those are the kind of people we have in court. Number two, in Rift Valley and Central, the way you're talking about, people, if they are not comfortable with Jubilee, they will go to friendlier party. It will be suicidal for them to go to ODM. That's end of their career. We had the likes of Henry Kosgei, Sally Kosgei, Musa Selma last time. All of them, they remain in ODM.
So where will they go?
Translated to 0 votes. They'll come to Jubilee.
So is the heckling of the DP an isolated
You see, you cannot even produce a clip of the DP being heckled. There were local leaders being heckled there. DP calmed the situation. Even according to that report, one side they say DP was heckled, the other side even DP took over to be the master of ceremony to invite people. How can a person who was heckled in turn take over to be a master of ceremony to that event? You cannot even produce that clip.
Isn't heckling a constitutional right anyway?
No, but I'm saying you cannot even produce that clip.
What he's failing to say is that immediately he was heckled, he went to his vehicle and addressed the gathering from his vehicle.
No.
These are all,
you cannot produce that clip. This is a media house. They can produce the clip.
Ben, a second. This notion of CORD, each and every year, their votes are being stolen. This notion is notion of fear. Remember, immediately the president won the 2013 election. And his boss, the former prime minister, conceded that the current president, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, has won the election. And immediately, 3 months after general election, the opposition started politics. It was campaign. They've been in campaigns up to night. What they like him being a political strategist, they don't have a strategic plan on how to win an election. That is what they like. And we will not expose it here. The same thing, our strategy is too much enhanced, and we are going to win this election without...
Plus on everything election, CORD is stonewalling anything and everything from audit of voter register to appointment of commissioners. Anything that leads toward a free and fair election, CORD is against, threatening threatening us with violence should they lose the election.
Let me give Jared an opportunity to answer those queries.
Firstly, Raila did not say, and he has never said, and will never say, that Uhuru Kenyatta won the election.
That's obvious.
When the Supreme Court pronounced itself on the very subject and upheld the pronouncement by IEBC, Raila came out and said, in the interest of peace, we are going to accept the decision of the Supreme Court. Of the Supreme Court. Not of IEBC, not of any other person. And he did not even indicate that Uhuru has won this election. So we have to set the record straight.
So you can switch peace on and off.
Since then, we have always maintained our position that the election wasn't free and fair. The Supreme Court, in its own wisdom, trashed our evidence that we presented to them to really indicate how Jubilee messed up the election to their betterment. So what we are saying is that going forward now, because we have also learned our great lessons, we will make sure that we have caveats on areas where they can penetrate with the thievery of elections, so that the election will be free and fair.
All right.
I do know that they are trying to muzzle, they are trying to mess up with the electronic gadgets, so that they stand at some advantage. But we will handle that.
All right. I want us to leave this conversation alone. We can talk. We can discuss this the whole day. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sunday edition, and when we return, somebody has mentioned about political, the politics of Nairobi, who has more numbers here. Jared says it is court stronghold, that is Nairobi. But how do the numbers look like? When we return, we talk about the politics of Nairobi. Just what gives the gubernatorial race, Governor Kidero is the incumbent. A lot of efforts to unseat him from the Jubilee side. A lot of gubernatorial candidates or aspirants coming from that end. But how is Jubilee going to do it? That's what we talk about, as well as also the latest in terms of voter listing intrigues across the country. The leaders have been canvassing their support basis to come out in large numbers and register as voters. Stay with us. We take a quick commercial break. We are back shortly.